Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our Employer Spotlight on Facebook Live. We are streaming right now live on the Southwestern College Student Employment Services page. We are so glad to be here and that you can join us. For those of you that are watching live, or that will see this later, you're truly in for an amazing treat today. Today, we have an amazing local employer who all of us have heard of if you live within San Diego County. They've got an amazing program that's here for our students across not just Southwestern College, but across all community colleges across San Diego and even more. We're going to talk about that today. But my name is Victor Brown. I'm from Student Employment Services Department at Southwestern College. And what I do is I work with connecting students and help not only to employment opportunities, but we help with resumes, cover letters, interview techniques, internships. We help with both on and off-campus employment, as well as cooperative work experience education. We help with job fairs, events, and just so much more. And today, as I said, and as we've been promoting, we have two amazing guests from the city of San Diego. Yes, the amazing employer, the city of San Diego, and they're here to talk about the Employ Empower program that's hiring students. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can introduce our individuals that are here. Thank you so much for being here. We have Dia Anoop, who is a management intern with this program, as well as Tim Coyne, who are here to talk about this program that is open to our students, that encompasses so many majors, so many opportunities, and we're going to jump right in. Dia, thank you for being here. Tim, we're glad to have you. As we go forward, is it okay if you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us about your name, the department that you're with, where you're and how you're working here at Southwest. I'm sorry, not at Southwestern, at the city of San Diego. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection to the program.
So my name is Dia Anoop. I am a management intern with the city's HR department. In particular, I work with the volunteer internship and work readiness program. And that particular sector of the HR department oversees most of the mentorship and internship programs that the city offers. And in particular, it's supporting the Employer Plus Empower internships.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Dia. And thank you to Victor and the team at Southwestern College for inviting Dia and I to speak today. We're real excited about discussing not only this internship opportunity, but also answering any questions you might have about trying to obtain employment with the city of San Diego. We love working here, and we're always looking to bring in new teammates who want to join us. So my name is Tim Coyne. I'm a program manager in the engineering capital projects department. I'm not an engineer, but I work with a ton of them. And I'm here to support Dia and talk about opportunities within my department, and then also whatever general information that we can share about applying for work with the city. So we're excited to chat.
Awesome. And as well, students, as we talk, you can go ahead and throw in any questions you have. Just drop them in the chat. We will be collecting your questions so that we can ask our panelists the questions that you have related to the program. So before we even go into that, I just want to share the screen for students. You might have already seen a little bit about the program on the website. On the website, it's sandiego.gov/employ-empower. And as you can see, there are many different avenues and career fields that are covered within this internship program. There's testimonials right on the website that you may have already viewed. They have a resources page, as well as how you can apply for that. But before we go any further, Ania and Tim, can you tell us a little bit about the program for our students?
Sure. I think Mia is the expert, so I will defer to her to start, and then if there's any specific detail about how the individual departments, right? Because the city itself is a very big entity. We have, I think, 12,000 of us who work for the city. We're spread across multiple departments. Some are mayoral departments, some are smaller known agencies. So I can help fill in any gaps about the specifics of how departments are doing the program, but Dia is the go-to person and the expert.
Awesome.
Not to put too much pressure on you, but.
So the Employee Empower program is a broader umbrella term for a number of internships that are being funded by the California for All grant that the city's been provided which will be utilized over the next 2 years to provide internships for youth between the ages of 16 to 30. In particular, they are looking to encourage youth to take up public service careers. There are two major types of internships that we will be offering. Student interns. This is a 6-month program, and the interns will be paid around $15.75 an hour. Management interns is a 1-year-long program, and they get about $16.8 an hour. These internships include internships from all departments, and they cover around 10 different industry sectors. And as you've seen from the page where you can apply, you're allowed to apply through an interest form for a particular industry sector. And this means that when you've applied for that interest form, when new opportunities from that industry sector are posted, you will get an email from the city.
That is awesome. And you actually covered my next question about some of the types of positions that are available. And that covers a wide breadth, as Tim even mentioned, of the various fields that are represented in the city of San Diego. Tim, thank you for dropping that. 12 million employees. Wow.
Oh, 12,000, not 12 million.
12,000, 12,000 employees.
Yeah.
So to think about that with 12,000 employees, that's for the city of San Diego. So that's all different types of departments. We think about transportation, public services, government. There's all these different fields that are related that they are looking for interns in. So many of the majors our students are interested in directly have a correlation with the position that's in the city of San Diego now.
Yeah, and Victor, so to give you an example, like within our department, engineering capital projects, we're one of the larger departments. We have about 800 employees. And we obviously have a lot of engineers, but we even have biologists. We have park designers and landscape architects. We have people who work in HR. We have people who pay bills. We have people who manage finances. We have a person who helps move because the city has many locations. We have a messenger who helps drive between the city locations during the day to distribute things. We have people who work on marketing. We have a full range of different job classifications. That I know when I was speaking to one of our executive managers, one of the things that she said to me was that we're always looking for people to apply for our positions that are interested just even in like regular business and administration. There's always a need, and so it's sometimes when people hear engineering, they think, oh, I'm not an engineer. This is not something I want to do. But in order for the city to do that kind of stuff is it requires a lot of support and a lot of other positions to get things done. So I would really encourage any of the students who are participating today, if you think you might even have the remotest of interest in possibly working for the city, then please take a look at the website and think about applying, because odds are that there might be a position or opportunity that does appeal to you and does enable you to do some of your skills and that kind of stuff. So I mean, Dia, I mean, do you agree with that?
Definitely. I mean, when we have opportunities in library that cover, art, they have art programs and crafts where you're supporting the community and, bringing to life creation, right? Then you have programs with human resources that help with mentorship programs, like something that I'm doing, right? Then you have Park and Rec, which has a variety of different opportunities. Then you have fire and rescue, lifeguard programs. So I don't think your major will ever be an issue to prevent you from being employed at the city.
And I'm glad that you both mentioned that, Tim. Just, a lot of students, when they're looking for jobs outside of their major, sometimes they'll go to, jobs like Amazon or basic local jobs, but they can actually get a job within their field, or even think about some of those smaller jobs that are in their field, like you were mentioning, drivers, different front desk stuff, people that are needed to be a part of their field, that they can get some hands-on experience, they can add it to their resume, they can learn about the companies and have connections. And for those of you who don't know, the city has great benefits as well. So it's definitely an option to be thinking about. And just for those who just popped in, I see we got a little over 21 live right now. The fields of interest that are covered within the Empower program, there's a lot of fields, but hospitality, tourism, recreation, energy, environment, utilities, arts, media, and entertainment, transportation, building and construction trades, engineering and architecture, information and communication technologies, business and finance, and public services. So that's a wide breadth of opportunities that are available. So I was wondering if you could tell us, what are some of the requirements for this program?
So the Employee Empower requirements, they have 3 requirements that all interns must meet. They need to be between the ages of 16 to 30. They must be in an academic or training program. And they should not have participated in AmeriCorps or California for All college program. These programs are focused on students studying or living in communities of concern, so they get priority. But that does not mean that those living outside of those communities don't get the same opportunity, don't get similar opportunities. And as a note, the Southwestern Community College is considered a college, an academic program in a community of concern. So that's one box already ticked for you.
All right. So if you're a Southwestern College student, you're already set. That is awesome. And you shared the requirements. Can you tell us a little bit more about the hiring process for the program?
So the hiring process is actually something that's more specific in terms of it happens depending on the department.
Okay.
So the choosing of interns and the interview process is something that each department gets to decide on. However, a couple of tips that I heard from somebody who was recently hiring. One was that always attach a resume. Sometimes it's not compulsory, but it's also the most basic way your employer gets to learn about you. They have really no other source of information. And so when they don't have that, they can find it really hard to understand why you should be valued against a candidate who does have a resume.
Wow. A resume is so important. And if you don't know what a resume is, or you need help with your resume, you can definitely contact us at Student Employment Services. Send us a message and we'll be able to help you. You can set up an appointment with us too. But that is awesome. Tim, was there anything that you wanted to add?
Well, definitely, like with the resume. So like make sure it's spell checked. Make sure you're using like consistent fonts. Because the little things, right, are sometimes, even if you like have, and we talk a lot about wanting to have a very inclusive hiring process and bringing people with different life experiences and different backgrounds. but the first thing, the way that we're going to meet you, because we can't individually like get out and have a conversation with everyone, the first impression you're going to make is going to be that initial paperwork that you submit for the application. And so that stuff is just so critical. Like make sure it's clean, make sure the spacing is good, have someone else review it. I can say like, I've been, I've been working a while now, and I can say that there's been a couple of times where I've thought like everything was perfect, and I've asked, a friend and a mentor to proofread my resume, and they've actually seen where I've either had typos or where I've misaligned things and I wasn't noticing that. And so those are just the extra steps, like, I mean, always, like definitely do that kind of stuff. And then, I would also say that with the city application process, the way that the way that local government hires is going to be different from like a private company. So I know, for example, like Amazon or Target, or even like smaller, like locally owned companies can move much quicker in their hiring. Our hiring has different rules. Like some of those come from like the organized labor, some of those come from the State Civil Service Commission, some of those come from the city charter. So it may take longer for you to receive a response when you do apply for this program, or even if later on after you finish school, if you want to apply for regular full-time employment with the city. That doesn't mean that we haven't received your application. Make sure in your email you're checking your spam folders. Make sure you're checking your inbox, your email. Use an email that is like your name. Don't use the silly, like the fun nickname stuff and things like that. But just make sure you're doing that, and just be patient. It's always okay if you haven't heard anything to send a follow-up email in a few weeks. But the city process does take a little bit of time. The way things typically work, I think it's somewhat different with this internship program, and hopefully Dia can explain that. But for regular positions, the way it works is the individual department will have a vacancy. So one of those, like I said, there's, I don't know, like 25 departments maybe. And they will post that vacancy, and the applications go to the city's personnel department. They do the first screen to see if the materials submitted by that person indicate that they're qualified. Once they do that, then they send that list over to the department that actually is doing the hiring. Then that department goes through the list to determine who they would like to interview. So if you can imagine, for personnel, it takes them quite some time to go through all those applications because of the volume that they're getting, and they also have to, pay close attention to make sure that they're following all of the rules that are established for good reason. To make sure that we're doing things appropriately and that we're doing things, that follow the guidelines. So it does take some time. But that's like not any like reason to get discouraged or anything. And then Dia, I don't know, is it the same for Employee and Empower? Like, what is I know the individual departments will be posting their openings, but I don't know if you want to talk about the application process itself.
So, okay. So when a particular internship is posted, so that's something that's posted on the by the HR department, and all applicants can then be viewed by the supervisor for that particular internship. Now, once that supervisor goes through the list and decides who they're interested in interviewing, and that process, like I said, again, is something that the department focuses on. So now what happens with this particular program is, if you have filled out an interest form beforehand, if you have applied for another internship beforehand, you would already have been checked for your eligibility for the California For All grant. And when the supervisor is looking at your application, he already knows whether you are eligible for the program, or if you've not been checked yet. So once they finish choosing students, they will then send whoever has not been confirmed their eligibility, those names will then be resent to HR, and they will do that confirmation for the department. And then those names will go to personnel, and the process is pretty much the same as what we would generally see when hiring.
Awesome. And actually you covered some of, we got quite a few questions in chat and you covered some of them. So it sounds like with the departments, it's almost like a rolling basis. So as the departments need them, they'll ask for an intern, the students will apply, and then they'll go through the process. So for example, if there's like, 20 departments that need them now, and maybe 5, maybe a month from now, they'll send that request out when they're needed, and then they continue to go. One of our questions was, our departments, all the departments hiring interns all year round? Thank you for sharing that question in the chat.
So yeah, so to a department, whenever they have a position that they need to be, that they feel needs to be filled, or an opportunity that they think will be good for a student to learn, they actually first make a request to personnel, saying that they require an intern, and personnel looks over that request, and then if they feel like it's reasonable, it's sent to HR, and HR posts that particular opportunity. And this will happen throughout, and so programs funded by the California for All grant will be posted continuously as and when opportunities arise for the next 2 years.
Wow, the next 2 years.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so just a little like inside info for the students too is so with the city, our new fiscal year just started July 1st. So typically what happens at the beginning of the new fiscal year is all the departments who did get new positions within the budget, they rush to get those to personnel, and personnel has to do their thing. So there's usually like a little bit of a backlog to start the fiscal year. And then I know, so speaking from the way my department is working, we're looking at anywhere from 12 to 20 interns specifically for this program. We're right now working on developing those positions, but what we're anticipating doing is taking the summer to do that, while we focus on getting the new budget funded, the permanent positions, like through the personnel process and organize our hiring around those. And then beginning to post those positions like in, at the September, like in the fall. So again, this is just to say for the students, like please don't be discouraged, like check back, we've got a lot of money in this program. The mayor and the city council are behind it. There's amazing people like Dia and her team who are working on it and making sure that the different city departments are holding up their end of the bargain. So again, don't be discouraged. There is some, there may not be always at the time that you apply like a bunch of departments that have openings, but over time, what you will probably see over the next several months is more and more openings coming online as the departments develop their job descriptions and stuff. And one of the things that I know Dee and her team have communicated and that we've talked about within my department is we want this to be a meaningful work opportunity. So to do that takes time to make sure like we're being intentional in how we're designing these internships so that people can have the best possible experience that they can, that then sets them up for future success, either with the city or with a different employer. So that's like the inside scoop on like what the how we're making the sausage in this particular case.
Perfect. And Dia, actually, I want to make sure that I drop this link that you sent us. You actually have the form that you gave me the link. I'm going to drop it now. The form that students can complete so that they can go ahead and get ready for these opportunities. I'm going to drop it right now, but can you tell them a little bit about that form?
So we have 10 different industry sectors. So the city's departments are divided into about 10 different industry sectors. As Victor was talking about earlier, education, child development and family services sector, the art, media and entertainment sector, business and finance sector, and a number of more opportunities. So if you feel like your major fits with a particular sector, or you have interest in working in a particular sector, and you can apply and you can fill out the interest form for multiple sectors. But what happens is that when you fill out an interest form, first of all, you're giving us the information that we need to use to determine whether you're eligible for the grant or not. And that means that at any later point, when you've finished, when you've applied for an actual position, most likely you would have already been checked for grant eligibility. And so that's something that your to-be employer knows when they're looking at your application, which is definitely a plus. The other thing is that, so now once you filled up this interest form, so the interest form is essentially a generic application, right? And attaching your resume to an interest when you're filling up the interest form is definitely a good idea. Though when you're applying for your specific internship later on, and if you have an updated internship, please feel free to reattach, right? Yeah, and the other thing about the interest form is that, again, when a department provides us with a particular internship, they also provide us the industry sector they believe this internship covers.
Okay.
And based on that industry sector, we will send an email to all those people who have filled out the interest form saying that, we have a new opportunity in this particular industry sector. Please feel free to look at it if it's something that interests you.
Awesome. And we've got quite a few questions, so we're actually going to go into the Q&A, but I'm really glad you pointed out, after filling out, continue to check your emails, because even if the position isn't available right now, when it comes up, you are on their list to contact you. So that's really good. And here, I'm just going to go ahead and ask some of the questions. You covered quite a few in there about hiring year round. There's also, do some departments have more demand than others? Do you usually see that at various times? Like some departments are have higher demand. Somebody was asking about specifically like the environmental department, but do you just see in general that some departments have higher demand than others?
I think I would say that it's definitely about a particular position.
Okay.
So depending on the range that a particular position offers, it might have more demand than others.
Okay.
But I do know that departments like Park and Rec, and even I think library, they do tend to have a lot more opportunities just because they need as much support as possible.
Okay. Thank you. And also someone was asking about opportunities available in departments after internships are over. Have you heard of, or are you aware if that's a possibility after the internship ends, that there might be an opportunity available?
Full-time employment?
Yes.
Yeah, so the purpose of this program is actually to be able to employ these interns full-time afterwards. So the hope is that if you fit in and if you're able to, if it works out well, you will be able to get a full-time position with the city.
That is awesome.
The other thing that add to that too is is depending upon like where folks are at. Obviously, if they did apply for an internship and it was going well, the city is relatively continuously, like posting new opportunities right now. I know when I checked this morning, like there's currently, I think we have 88 open recruitments. I expect that number to go up over the next month or so as all of those new fiscal year 2023 positions get posted. And then they cover a range of departments. Again, I think there were land surveying assistants, there was golf course, there was transportation, recreation leaders. So the internship will help give you exposure to what it means to be involved in public service, and the pride that we all take in working for the city of San Diego. And then also it has the special benefit of that you've been through the personnel process, which if you're coming from outside can take a long time. So it makes it much easier to then jump from an internship to another opportunity because you've already been vetted and done like all the other kind of paperwork sort of stuff that we're required to do to hire people. Right? Would you say that's right, Dia?
It's definitely easier to go if you're moving from within the system, just because a lot of your information that we ask is
Mhm.
already there.
Awesome. And students, I just want to let you know, this is a little bit longer today than our usual employer spotlight because we have a lot of people asking questions. So we will get to those questions. Just wanted to make sure that everybody had the information. We're going to continue to answer the rest of these questions. One thing, I'm just going to share my screen before we go forward. Again, we have dropped it in the chat where you can apply. We will, I'm gonna drop it one more time in the chat. The form that you can fill out, which is also the application to apply. We just dropped it again. Make sure you fill that out. This is the employer program. We have people coming in, so we want to make sure that you do get this information before we continue to go in more questions. With this as well, with this, as you mentioned, with this employer program, these are internships, but they can, if you make a good fit and the department has availability, you can continue going into work afterwards. Thank you everyone for the awesome questions. One of the questions was, is there usually a length on the internships? Generally, how long are these internships? Is it for a certain number of hours? Is it dependent upon each sector? About how long is it usually? How long are the internships usually?
So in terms of the total time period an intern is allowed to work, as I was saying before, student interns are 6-month opportunities and
Okay.
management interns are 1-year opportunities. But if you remember, it's an important point to remember that you cannot work for more than a year in a particular position as an
Okay.
intern.
Okay.
Another thing, I think that you were also asking about hours that they work. Since you're we're all going to be in school, you can work 20 hours a week maximum. Exactly how many hours you end up working will depend on your department and what your requirements are and what their requirements for you are. But the maximum is 20 hours a week when school is going on, and you can work up to 40 hours a week during holidays.
Wow. And it's paid. And it's in sectors that you want to work in. Goodness, if I wasn't graduated already from college, I'd want to jump on this program myself. Just some other quick questions. With the sector, someone had a question. If you get into a sector that maybe isn't your first choice, is there an opportunity to change the internship if one becomes available?
Being employed with the city currently in an internship definitely does not prevent you from applying to other opportunities as they become available.
Okay.
It might be something you want to talk to your supervisor about once you've started. And because sometimes what happens is they might become aware of an opportunity in a department or sector that you're interested in, and having that referral is definitely a good thing.
Okay. Awesome. And then one of the other questions, and Tim, you kind of touched on this. Someone was asking about the process for applying. So for example, someone was asking, about sending their resume to the city of San Diego, that department. Currently, they have to actually, Dia, can you explain how they'll go about the process? Because they fill out the form now, and then they'll have to actually apply through the city of San Diego's process once they're notified, correct? Or could you explain the process just a little more for them? Because for many people, they might just have realized or been thinking about, oh, I send a resume to this job because they're asking, but it's a little bit different with the city.
So when you open up a particular internship opportunity on the website, and something to note, these opportunities are also posted on Handshake. So if that's something that you regularly use, you'll see it there as well. But again, please don't apply through Handshake. The Handshake internship posting will offer a link to an external application, and that's definitely where you need to be applying. So the website that Victor has provided in the chat is where you will apply for your internships. So when you fill out your application, it asks you basic questions like your name, your age, some of your interests, it even might ask you your schedule. You don't necessarily need to fill that out, but if you have a schedule, it's always nice for your supervisor to know beforehand what times you'd be available to work with them. They will ask you, there's something called the internship eligibility section as part of your application, and those will ask you some questions that maybe you're uncomfortable with, maybe not, and you can always choose to decline to state when answering those questions. But it's good to remember that we're asking you these questions to see how best we can support you. Your life experiences will never disqualify you for an internship. However, they may make you eligible for the grant and other support. So, and it's important to remember that that's why we're asking these questions.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And for those of you, Dia mentioned something very important. The jobs are also shared on Handshake. So many of you, even if you're outside of Southwestern College, you can actually go ahead and apply for these opportunities within Handshake. As Dia mentioned, you will go in Handshake and see the job, but there's going to be a little button that says apply externally. You want to make sure you click that button, because then it will take you to the correct link to apply with the city of San Diego. So just because you clicked apply doesn't mean that you have directly applied. I know we have some one-click applies in Handshake, but with the city of San Diego jobs, you want to make sure you click apply externally and then continue to fill out the city's application. Thank you so much for saying that. Again, I also dropped the link within the chat regarding where you can see the jobs for the city of San Diego on Handshake. And again, even before we leave, I'm going to drop that link one more time where you can apply directly to the employer. For those of you that are on Handshake, those of you that are on Facebook, you can scroll up and actually see it as well. But we do have some more questions, but I do want to be cognizant of Dia and Tim's time. Thank you for being able to share some of the someone asked, so if they're looking in internships and they see that at this time, the sector that they're interested in is not available, is there a way that they'll be able to be kept up to date with the latest opportunities? And Dia, I think you answered this earlier in the sense of once they fill out that form, when those opportunities come up, they will be notified, correct?
The industry sector forms, and right above the industry sector forms on the website are the current opportunities, and below will be the forms for the
Excellent. And those are actually the major questions in the chat. Is there any, you kind of gave a little tips regarding the application process. Someone asked, are there any tips that you have for the interview process with the city of San Diego, or to let them know a little bit if there's a little bit different than maybe some of the regular interviews?
Well, I would say with any, it's funny, I was just reading something about this yesterday, is that with any interview, right, the way it's like any skill in life, the way you get better at it is practicing. And I know it's hard to do because I've had to do it myself, where I've had to ask like my partner or a friend or a mentor, like, hey, can we sit down and do a practice interview? And it feels very awkward. It just really does. But I've found that it's been helpful, in the past. So I would say like that's number one. Is definitely do some practice. I'll be candid. I know the question is coming, but every interview when I've got the question about tell us why you're qualified or tell us about your background and experience, I still struggle with that. So for me personally, what I do is I write my response to that question out and how I'm going to handle it. Just to get all the ideas out. And then still when I get to the interview, I suddenly, like, when I get that question, I go like, oh no, what was I going to say? but interviews so the advice that I give, and I also do mentoring for the University of Buffalo, where I went to undergrad, and for the New School University of New York, where I went to grad school. And what I tell students at those sessions is that an interview is an unnatural process, right? So there's nothing natural about it, whether it's done remotely or done in person. So the best way to deal with that is like to practice so you get comfortable with the awkwardness, because trust me, if you've never practiced, if you've never asked a friend or family member to like, hey, can we do a mock interview, it's going to feel awkward, and going through that will be helpful when the real time comes. But then also just just relax and just do your best and don't beat yourself up after it. And I would also say like the follow-up email, the thank you email, is still like a super nice touch. Don't go bonkers in it, but just use that as an opportunity to just, say like, I'm grateful I had the opportunity. I learned a lot. I think I'd be a valued member to the team. I'd love to continue in the process. So those are the, the big things that I tell when I, am mentoring in other situations as well. I mean, Dia, what do you think?
So yeah, I'm definitely still in the part of the process where interviews are going to be frequent in my near future. And a couple of other things that I have heard is that particularly with virtual interviews, sometimes even practicing in front of a turned on Zoom camera or in front of a mirror can be really helpful, particularly if I don't believe that you'll see this in the city, interviews that are you might have Zoom interviews, but you won't have like recorded interviews where you have to record yourself and send it in. I don't believe I haven't heard that being common in the city. But when you do have those cases, sometimes it can be really awkward talking to what feels like yourself, right? So practicing, is definitely really helpful.
Awesome. These are some gems coming directly from people who work with the city of San Diego, everyone. Make sure you go back and listen to this recording again. We're going to be closing out, but I just want to ask, is there anything else that you'd like to share about the Employee Empower program? Any last tips, anything that you think students should be looking out for, or just anything that that we haven't covered that you'd like to share regarding this opportunity for our students across not just the city, but really the county as well?
I would just say that, apply, like, even if you're hesitant, definitely apply, right? And see what happens. And then, when either whether you feel like looking for full-time employment now or when the time does come in the future, I've been working in public service for about 18 years now. I started working in a call center for a retirement system in New York City, which was very difficult work. But there's a lot of opportunity, and I hope that that folks and students will consider public service as being a way to to have a nice career, like meet great people and be able to give back a little too. So and Victor has my information. If anyone ever wanted to have a chat or reach out, it's one of my favorite things to do. So by all means.
Thank you, Tim. Wow.
Yeah, and I
Dia.
think really similar to what Victor said. There are probably going to come opportunities that you think maybe you're not quite ready for, or you're not really sure if they're what you want, but it never hurts to apply. It's always nice to have those choices before you make them. So yeah, I think it's, like I said, I'm still somebody who's still in this process with you. I'm also a sophomore in college. Sorry, I just completed my sophomore year. So I'm definitely right there with all of you. So yeah, apply where you can and hope for the best, right?
Yes. Thank you so much again to Dia and to Tim. We greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Oh, we are so grateful for you, especially extending your time, because our employer spotlight students are only 15 to 20 minutes tops, but they decided to extend their time so that they could answer live questions from our students. We already are getting the thank yous coming in, but if you can throw some likes in just to show some love to Dia and to Tim for sharing their information and these great opportunities. Again, students, we want to let you know that if you have any questions, you can continue to send us your questions, send us an email, or send us a message on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You're already on Facebook, but Instagram and Twitter, SWCSES. Also on YouTube. This video will also be posted on YouTube, and it's going to stay on the page, so you will be able to see it. Go ahead, and if you have any contact questions as well, maybe you don't have social media too much, but you're seeing this from a computer, you can always call us at any time as well. I want to thank again Dia and Tim. Thank you for sharing this. And for more information, go ahead and send us a message at any time, students. We look forward to seeing you again on the Employer Spotlight for our next one that will be coming up. Shout out again to Tia and Tim. We're so grateful that you are sharing these awesome paid opportunities with our students. And go ahead, students. Again, we're going to drop the link in the chat to where you can apply for these opportunities. We just dropped it. We look forward to seeing everybody again. Have questions, send us a message, DM us. We're here for you. Tim, thank you for being available for our students if they have more questions. Dia, thank you for your time and great information. We look forward to seeing you again. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. A great summer, and we look forward to referring great quality candidates to your opportunities. Thank the city as well for us. Have a great day, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. Take care.
Thank you. Goodbye,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.